Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Tour Live, and it's going to be a monster weekend of racing, and we're going to be previewing on this show the first ever women's Paris-Roubaix. It's only taken 125 years, but it's finally arrived. I'm joined, as always, by four-time road champion Johnny Trevorrow. Donna Rae-Szalinski's back on the show, former pro and cycling coach. Start with you, Donna. How excited are you for the weekend?
I am so excited. Yeah. Cannot wait.
There's a lot of nervous energy, I'd say, because obviously the weather report is in and it's not looking good, particularly for Saturday. The latest is a 60 to 90% chance of rain from 2 to 5 p.m. tomorrow, and the wind as well. I mean, rain's bad enough, but it's going to be 24 to 32 k's an hour. How does that make you feel, Donna?
I reckon there'll be people rubbing their hands together saying, yes, that's exactly what I want.
What do you reckon?
Well, I never rode Paris-Roubaix. I was actually on the program to ride it, but I had an injury, so I was really unlucky. But it's funny. I was talking to Robbie McEwen earlier, and we have a little grab with him shortly. But he was saying that it wasn't a race he liked, but his job would be earlier on. He said, "You remember one time in terrible conditions, he was riding along dead straight on the flat, and he bounced off his bike." So he said, it's bloody crazy. But, and look, the men's race on Sunday, there is not one guy on the start line who has ever ridden a wet Paris-Roubaix, because 2002 was the last wet Paris-Roubaix. And I'm actually really, I'm disappointed that the first women's race is going to be a wet one, because it's a tough race. It's a bit of a raffle at the best of times. The luck comes into a lot. But when it's wet, it changes. The whole dynamic changes. And then it really, there will be a dozen potential, place getters who will be out of this race tomorrow because of the conditions. So it's always a shame. It's always a shame.
Well, I saw on social the Alps and Phoenix guys. Someone hit the deck there, and I hope that's mud. But I mean, it's one of those things where tactically, I mean, you used to see the riders pair off to the sides or whatever. I mean, how are you going to race it in the wet when, you go to the sides? That could even be worse. You'd probably have to go up the middle of the cobbles if you...
Well, you do. I mean, it's got to the stage now where actually the most of the good riders go up the middle. Okay, there's plenty of times where they go on each edge because you get that bit of almost like a paved section, not pavé. But yeah, you're right. They won't be doing any of that because it'll be just thick mud. The biggest problem you have in the cobbles, and I've raced on wet cobbles plenty of times. I haven't been Paris-Roubaix, but what happens on these rough cobbles? And back in my day, there were plenty of cobbles around. Every race in Belgium had plenty of cobbles. But when it gets wet, you can't see the missing cobbles. You just don't see them. There's mud, whatever, and you hit these great big, like a pothole, and you get punctures. And those who are riding tubulars, the high pressures, as we call them, will get punctures because the beauty of tubular with a rim shape, like people can't see that, but with the rain, they absorb the whack a lot better because they don't ride high pressure. They're only riding around about 70 pound in their tyres, even under. So, but with a high pressure or a tubeless, the rim is much steeper, and they hit those potholes or missing cobbles or whatever. They get punctures. They get more flats. So that's going to be a challenge.
I saw a lot of quotes popping up, and the word that's popping out is nervous. So Sarah Roy, she said, it's just insane. I'm stoked. I'm nervous. Jess Allen, who we did an interview with that's coming up, she said, I'm super excited, but also really nervous. But then our mate, Tennille Campbell, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago, she's got another way. She goes, it'll be a beautiful day, special race, no matter what happens. That's the spirit.
That's exactly. They've never raced it before. It is special. It makes you a little bit nervous when it's unknown. And because they've never raced this race before, there's unknowns.
That's right. Donna, how big is this for the sport? I mean, I saw a really good Instagram post. I want to read it out. It's from Jared Gruber. He said, I saw a little girl riding in the Carrefour de Lebre yesterday, and it stopped me dead. I couldn't believe it. I grabbed for my camera, my settings were off. I wasn't in the right spot, but that's where I was when I saw change. Beautiful, wonderful, remarkable change. I always thought that change is marked in slow crawling years, but to see her riding that awful stretch of cobbles changes now, right this second. This is obviously a photo of a young girl riding the cobbles. It was one of my absolute favourite moments I've ever had related to bikes in my life. I loved it. I'm so excited for Saturday's race. Fantastic post. And, what sort of a flow-on effect do you think that the women of finally racing Roubaix is going to have on the sport?
Well, we know that having positive female role models is a great way to inspire others coming through. And to see the women out there racing alongside or the day before the men is just showing lots of young girls this is possible and I can dream of doing this.
Fantastic.
Yeah, much so. I was
As
going to say
earlier,
that we've got the bad weather is going to affect the race, but it's affecting our podcast because Kate Bates was going to join us and to give us ladies, but she's been hit with a absolutely monster megastorm up in New South Wales, and she lost all her power, all her internet. So she might jump on, and she might. We'll find out.
Well, we interviewed Jess Allen earlier today, just before they went out for another recon, and this is a grab. I opened up by asking what she thinks of the course after she had a look at it yesterday.
Yeah, we've seen the course a number of times. First time was 18 months ago. Went for the old no gloves approach, absolutely shredded the hands. So knew it was pretty brutal just then. And we did the course again last year and earlier this year and then again yesterday. So it's pretty savage. We haven't actually done it in the wet, and tomorrow's meant to be, I think, 90% chance of rain, 30 to 40 k/h winds. So it's going to be an absolutely crazy race.
I saw some quotes with the rest of the group. What's the overriding feeling amongst the team?
Everyone's keen, but I think everyone's also shitting themselves.
I was going to say, the word that comes to mind is shitting yourself, because obviously racing in the mud, I mean, Roubaix is hard enough when it's dry, but you add the mud and that into it. I mean, how are you going to attack this thing?
I think, so basically for the women's race, we do 30 Ks of more or less a crit, like 2.5 like local laps. So I think it's going to be 30k crit and then 150 chicks just racing into the first sector and hope to stay on your bike and go from there.
Exactly.
But I think basically just positioning, really. Positioning. I don't think it's a matter of if you fall off. I think it's a matter of when you fall off. Just, tuck and roll. Get back on your bike, and chances are people in front are also going to have mechanicals and issues, and just got to keep falling back, I think.
I mean, obviously, not being a former rider myself, I'd have no idea when it comes to equipment and that, but my brain would instantly go, get the big sort of mud tires on, get the mud guards. Is there anything you can really tweak from an equipment side of things to handle the conditions a bit better?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind jump on a fat bike, actually. Get big tires going. But no, we do just run lower pressure. Like yesterday, we only had 60 PSI and double handlebar tape, which felt pretty good yesterday. Everyone also has like their different little tweaks. Like I'll tape my hands and wear gloves, but there's not really too much you can do. I mean, some teams might use a different bike. I'm using the Bianchi Ultra, and I think that's going to be the best choice for tomorrow. Not too much you can do, really. Just a bit of lower pressure and hope for the best.
I've seen a lot of commentary because this is obviously the first edition, and it really is such a big step for the sport, given that it's taken so long to get a chance to ride Roubaix. Does it feel like a massive day for the sport as a whole tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm so proud to actually be on the start line for the first women's Roubaix, and it's also just been like so much anticipation because like we're meant to race it for the first time 18 months ago, and it kept getting postponed, and you're just like, oh, when's it going to actually happen? So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Tomorrow's actually the day, and we're going to see, I think, a really, really cool race. And And yeah, whoever wins tomorrow is going to be super tough and deserving winner, that's for sure.
Now, one thing that they used to like doing over the years is they do the classic before and after photos, pre-Roubaix and then after Roubaix. Given that it's a wet one, is your brain sort of going, this could be an awesome TikTok video here?
It could actually. I haven't been on the TikTok since lockdown last year, so I'm a little rusty. But
this could go viral, Jess. There's a lot of potential for viral video here. If you can think of how to blend in the before and after, then could go nuts.
Look, I'm rooming with Tanil, and she's all about the TikTok, so I reckon we might be able to put something together for you.
All right. Well, stay safe. That is the main thing tomorrow, because obviously, yeah, as you said, the conditions are going to be pretty gnarly, but it's going to be a historic day. And yeah, all the best, Jess. We'll be watching
so much.
With great interest from back home in lockdown.
Yeah. I hope we can entertain you guys. It's going to be a big one.
Thanks again to Jess Allen for insights there. She's a real character. She's a real character. She was in the lockdown last year. She did a lot of viral content on TikTok, so I had to slip that one in for sure.
But, bloody mudguards. Come on, Dan.
Mate, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be running the Lamb's Wool seat cover if I had to. I'd do anything at all costs. But that was great. I've got the course, Iffy and Donna, so we can have a look at that interactively while you go through how you think it's going to be raced, Johnny.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So they could have whacked them straight into the Forest of Arenberg, but they decided not to do that, which I think was smart, because of the whole field hitting that first off would have been just horrendous. They wouldn't do that to the men either. So they get to warm it, and as you see, they just get the race. Look, it's going to be horrendous, and what Jess just said was spot on. It's all about position. You're going to be crashes. You've got to be up the front, and everyone's going to be wanting to do the same thing. So in the first bit of Pavé they hit, which is at 31k, it'll be a race to the Pavé, and then it'll just be all split up, and it'll be all over the place. And if it's wet, it'll probably never come back together. But the interesting, when you get to the fifth and fourth last cobble sections, that's the Camphin en Pavel and the Carrefour de l'Arbre. They're the two hardest bits, and they're like 30k to go, and the race will just explode from there on. But look, this race is going to explode from the first bit of cobbles.
The first bit of cobbles is over 3k, Iffy. It's over 3k long, and it's a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Well, the Carrefour de l'Arbre is the famous spot where Matt Heyman, remember, he dropped off the back with about 20k to go, and then he got back on.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing is, after the women have raced this, I mean, imagine what it's going to do to the course, chopping it up for the men the next day. Because I was chatting to Sam Bewley earlier, and he was like, "Oh, no, I think we've got the worst of the weather, mate." I said, "No, I had a look online. The women have got the worst of the weather, but the course is going to be chopped up for you, mate." He goes, "Oh, didn't even think of that." So everyone's stressing, but I think to get that positioning, Donna, like it is
stuff the blokes. Who cares about the blokes? We're talking about the girls, mate. It's more important.
These are all factors for the weekend preview, John. But what I was saying before, Donna, is if it's all about positioning, you don't want to be at the back. You don't want to be at the back. You want to be at the front. So that first 30k, it is going to be on like Donkey Kong to make sure that you're in good position going into the first sector, yeah?
Oh, for sure. And there'll be teams leading out, like as a whole team, into that early section. So yeah, it's going to be quite a dogfight, so to speak.
We've got a couple of live comments. Janice Ashcroft says, "Hi all ladies, Paris-Roubaix will be awesome." Ben Jensen says, "Hello, Iffy." Wendy May says, "Hi all. Can't wait for Roubaix." Here's one for you, John. Peter Williams says, "What happened to the Aussie core of BikeExchange women's squad? There are only 2 riders left in the team, and Alan is currently uncontracted." Well, don't know what's happening there.
Well, it's there's quite a few things happening. You see Donna smiling, So look, there'll be some announcements shortly, and after Jess wins Paris-Roubaix tomorrow, so she'll be signed up very quickly.
Mm-hmm. We've got the Wheel Wizard. He's back. Congratulations, Jess, on the work you did in the World's Road Race along with the English girl Henderson, the ride of the race. And he said, Dan, my comments when Tenille Campbell was directed at you and Jess and John. Now, unlike the men, the women don't do 100-plus kilometres before the cobbles. Not sure what he means there.
No, I think you mentioned the other day about the Forrester Arnberg not being in the women's race. It doesn't start far from there, and they could have put it in, but I think it's a wise move not to put it in. But the men hit it, and they've already done 4 or 5 cobble sections, but that still is an enormous sprint to the forest because it's quite a famous piece, and it's probably the worst bit of road in the whole race. But
shocking on a good day, yeah.
It's shocking on a good day. And look, it's all about we are talking about position, but it's so crucial. If you're down the back, someone will be you'll be stopping. There'll be someone crashing in front of you, and as Donna just mentioned, that first section is nearly 4 kilometres long. It's 4 stars, so it's going on. And if it's wet, there'll be riders all over the place. And I don't know. It's probably, what is it, from there? It's 9K to the next section of cobble, which is 2.4, and there's cobble, there's bitumen, there's cobbles, there's bitumen for the whole race. So it's just going to be carnage. Carnage is the word.
So I still reckon there's a couple of cyclocross riders in there who are going to be happy that it's a bit of rain and wind tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was referring to when I said there'll be a few rubbing their hands together.
Oh, yeah.
I had a look on Cycling News. They reckon the contenders are Jolien de Hoort, Chantal van der Broek Black, or Ellen van Dyke. You think they're probably the 3 main ones going into the race, Donna?
Yeah, I do. But I'd also throw in a few outliers with Tiff Cromwell and Voss and Kasia Doma.
Yeah.
Yep. And Chloe handles the cobbles pretty well. So, Chloe will give it a run. Sarah Roy, she goes pretty well in these tough type of classics. So, I wonder how the new world champion will go. I mean, she's a pretty tough cookie. I don't know how she handles the cobbles. I don't know anything about her cobble skills, but she'd be on a bit of a high after a fantastic win in the world championship, at least at Balsamo. So, she's on the start line. You give her a chance. But I think Chantal van der Broek Black, long name, is going to be right up there, along with Lottie Capecci. She handles the cobbles really well. But Movistar with Emma Northgard and Anna Meek, you think they'd have a part to play. So a lot of good bike riders in this bike race. I mean, it's going to be worth watching.
Well, I think everybody wanted to start because it's such an iconic race and the first time for the women. I reckon they would have been asking, pick me, pick me.
Oh, for sure. We were talking to Chloe only a couple of weeks ago after she won that great comeback race, and she was emergency at that stage, but she was desperate to get her start. So obviously she's done that. So it's fantastic.
Well, we're talking about the effect of having the first ever edition. Donna, what other monuments? I mean, this should be the norm. Like if you've got races that are monuments that have got all this history with the men, I mean, what other races do you think that should be following suit moving forward, particularly from a monuments perspective?
To be honest, and I might get shot for saying this, the women's calendar is so full now. Yeah. And I think they do most of the monuments. I'm not quite sure how. I'm not sure how we can fit in more races.
Yeah, well, they do the Ronde van Vlaanderen. They do
the Strade Bianche,
Amstel. I mean, Liège.
The Ardennes.
Yeah, the Ardennes. So most of them are there now. Yeah, this was the last really big one, and now with Tour de France.
Blanc San Remo?
No,
That's what I was thinking of when I asked the question. I thought you were going to say, well, Milan San Remo. I didn't think.
Look, the difference is in the men's teams, you have a bigger team and you can split the racing around. In the women's teams, they don't have that same option. So, yeah, I think they've got quite a bit of racing myself.
So this was sort of the last big box you think that needed to be ticked off in terms of the big races, particularly given the Tour de France is going to step up next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll never say it's the last big box because we always keep our ears and eyes open, but it was a really big one. That and having a women's Tour de France again. It's really cool.
All right, well, time to look into the crystal ball, guys. Who's your tip for the race, Donna? You going to go with an Aussie, Tiff Cromwell?
Yeah, the thing is, does the person you tip ever win this race?
All the time. That's why people tune in.
Give me an example.
Oh, jeez. Where do we start, John? We've tipped so many winners on this show.
We have picked a few, but we've got a lot more wrong than we've got right. I've got to admit to that.
The first person over the line is going to win. My question is it going to be a solo win? Is it going to be a small group? What do you think?
I think it'll be a solo. I think it's going to be a solo. I think
very small group, if any. Yeah.
It's just going to be carnage, obviously, the whole day, and then someone will get that gap behind the carnage, and they'll just go, and then hopefully they can hold up. But I think Ellen Van Dijk, she's my tip. I think she's she's a good one because she's a great time trialer, and the time trialers are going to be the ones that can really do something on this. But I'm going to go with Chantal Van den Broek Black. Yep.
Yeah, I'd probably back you on that one, Iffy. She's won Strade, so she's handled. It's not the same. Get that, but pedigree is pretty impressive.
Yeah. All right. Anything you want to add, Iffy, before we go to break? And we did an interview, as you mentioned, with Robbie McEwen earlier, talking about Heiko Salzwedel, which is a really good tribute.
Yeah, that's great. Well, look, we might have a special guest appearance coming up from Magnus Backstead. So Maggie, who won Paris-Roubaix a few years back, he agreed. He was on the show, and his daughter won the junior world title. Just don't know what is that me or it's a bit of funny noise going on there in the background.
No, it's a car drove past.
Okay. His daughter won the junior world title just last week, and his other daughter has got a ride for Trek. Would have been in this, but Zoe, I think it is, and she's got a broken collarbone. But he agreed to come on, but he's right in the middle of bringing her back from Belgium to England as we speak, and he got stuck. The tunnel got closed, and he got all drama.
There's a lot of excuses for our guest, John. I'm seeing a
He'll join us if he can.
Donna never let us down, though. That's the main thing.
No.
Yeah. All right. Well, we really appreciate you being on the show, Donna. It's going to be an epic edition for the women's Roubaix, and as we said to Jess, fingers crossed they stay safe. But no doubt you'll be glued to the TV in Geelong.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
I've just only recovered from Worlds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we said, appreciate you being on the show, Donna, and we'll check in again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
See you, Donna. Bye, love. Bye.
All right. It's that time of the show, Iffy. Quick drinks break, and after the break, we'll be catching up with Robbie McEwen.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, Yours and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. BikeExchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate and conscientious. Every cyclist death is preventable and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again to BikeExchange and our partners at the Amy Gillett Foundation. As we said earlier in the show, we caught up with Robbie McEwen to pay tribute to his great mate, Heiko.
G'day, Robbie. Great to have you on the show as always, but sadly we're bringing you on to talk about the absolute tragic passing of Heiko Salzwedel, who we know was a major part of Australian cycling back quite a few years ago now. We're talking about the 90s. And just a legend from East Germany, and has been very involved in running a lot of the cycling teams around the world. He was huge in the development of Australian cycling and also in British cycling, and I think it was the Danes as well, and he's been in Asia. So just I know that you were very close with Heiko and very involved with him in those early days. So just tell us a bit about it, mate.
Yeah, obviously since the early 90s, that was my first involvement with Heiko. I first met him when I rode the bank race in 1993, but I already knew of him through a very good mate of mine, Darren Smith, who was tragically killed in 1992. He was part of Heiko's squad. I'd heard nothing but great things from the riders who had been in the team under Heiko and had the benefit of his coaching and experience. And, even before I knew him, by all accounts, he was a hard taskmaster, but a really fair guy. And he got great results out of people who others didn't expect great results out of and didn't manage to get them either. Heiko, he's the epitome of a top coach. He could take whatever was on offer and get the absolute best out of each athlete, and not just on the individual side, but also in terms of the team and functioning within the team. He ran these teams like a pro team, and we were amateurs. Sometimes we didn't know what he was doing, but he always knew what the end goal was and how he was going to get there. And, it's a terrible loss, of course, for cycling, but, for his family, for those close to him. He's just an all-round great guy. I mean, I think anybody who had been in a team with Heiko as their coach and the high performance manager running the program, that probably, like all of us, had moments, little run-ins, disagreements with Heiko, maybe not quite understanding where he was going and why he was doing what he was doing. But, in the end, he always had everyone's best interests at heart, and he wanted riders to develop and evolve and grow out of his program and move on to be professionals. And, he was always there to guide and help make that happen. If it was all possible, it was going to happen under Heiko. And it's just a sad loss. I mean, 64, so young, with still so much he was doing in the world of cycling. And, I, like dozens, hundreds of others, have been in contact with Heiko over the years. It's devastating.
There's so many good riders that come out of your era, Robbie. I mean, how many can put it down to great coaches like Heiko?
All of us. I mean, there were guys who, as good as the track program has been over the years, not everybody fit that mold, and it wasn't going to be the long-term career for them. And without Heiko coming to Australia and developing a road program, we would have had a lot of retired athletes that never would have known. So, his foresight and his determination to get that program up and running and do everything he had to do to make it happen, it gave athletes another avenue. Of course, there were some who on the track who made it, and they were going to make it no matter what. But, Heiko had the knack of, I think, almost in a way, he had champion athletes. He had guys who were always going to make it, but he was able to take underdogs, sometimes problem children, and turn them into really good professional athletes. And I think that's what sets him apart from many others, is how he was able to do that.
You know, Robbie, you touched on a very crucial thing just a minute ago when you said he ran this amateur team like a pro team. And he had that, from East Germany, so he had a really good structure in mind. But he, as you say, he ran like a pro team. And I remember he got, when he got Jerry involved, became the Jayco team for a while there. And they were based in Europe. And it was just so well done on the smallest possible budget. A few things I've read, he wasn't so great on the budget side. I think he was very good, and he had a plan. He always had a plan. But different to a lot of the Australian coaches we've had, he also cared about the athletes, and even if they weren't quite fitting that, he tried to make sure that there was a path for them to where they were going. Which is important. And I remember it was a tour of Tassie that I was running. And I got on really well with Heiko. We're having a quiet one together. And I had a go at one of the riders about something that was said. And, he arced up. He was so protective of those riders. I thought, gee, that was pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, Heiko, he ran sometimes a really tight ship, East German style, really structured, as you said. But what he was always good at was understanding the idiosyncrasies of all his athletes, and also understanding when he came into a program and with athletes like us Aussies, really understanding the mentality of us and understanding what was needed and when it was needed. Like, he could push you to the brink of breaking down and almost hating what you were doing because you were so fatigued. And we learned a term from him, and it got bandied around for years. Super compensation, it's when you get so tired, you think you're about to just, never be able to get on a bike again. Then you get a rest period, and once you've recovered, you're incredible. And that was the super compensation. It was one of the terms he used so often. But he also had the knack of knowing when the team needed to let off steam, so he could release the pressure valve. And there was a night, and a few others have spoken about it over the last couple of days. We were in East Germany, in his old hometown of Cottbus, and he said, "Righto, boys, that's it for training for now. It's time to relax. We're going out. We're having a barbecue, we're having a few beers, and then we're going to the nightclub." And we had in terms of elite athletes, we had a bender. I mean, only alcohol, mind you. I'm not talking Melbourne Storm or something vended, But Heiko knew what his athletes needed when they needed it, and it was the perfect combination. And it was like having a sort of a father figure, or even sometimes a dodgy uncle, the one who slipped you a beer when you were 15 and said, "Here you go, mate, how good are these?" But that's what it was like, and it created such a good team atmosphere, and that's why we all loved being a part of the squad with Heiko, and we hold him in such high regard.
Is that why you think he got so much respect? Because, as you said, he's so hard, but he knew when to release the valve.
Yeah, he understood, and sometimes it's difficult particularly for coaches who haven't been athletes at the top end, to understand the pressures and what it's like, and that fatigue and having to have that release valve. But Heiko, he was so experienced, he'd been around, and he figured out what worked, and he probably thought to himself, if I don't condone it and we do it tonight, they're going to do it anyway and at the wrong time. So he preempted us going out and being idiots, and it worked really well. And that was the sort of thing that created such good camaraderie in the team, and really pulled a team of individuals together. Because let's face it, as amateur riders, everybody there wants to make that next step and turn pro, but not everybody can. So it's tricky to create a team atmosphere, but Heiko was also very good at that.
Is there any particular example that you think best personifies him being able to turn around an athlete that's achieved at a very high level?
To turn them around, or to get them to that level.
To get them to that level, yeah.
Being enough. Well, I think it's the giving the self-belief. But he did that to plenty of riders. Even those who were sometimes a little bit fragile and weren't sure. I mean, I take a guy like Nathan O'Neill. He was full of self-doubt, but under Heiko, he performed at his best. Eventually turning pro. There's been a bunch of guys like that, guys who are struggling there. They're struggling with being away overseas for that length of time, etc., or, the pressure of trying to make the squad. And Heiko was good at putting things in perspective, telling him, yeah, it's important, but it's not the be-all, end-all of your life. But, this is what we're going to do, and you do that, then the chances are you will make it. And, he was really good at listening to the individuals and catering to their needs within that team structure, when it was a lot easier just to make the whole team do the same thing and see what you're left with.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, you see it in world sport, the effect of really good coaches like Melbourne Storm. They're always at the top of the, pointy end every year. Greg Popovich in the NBA, like these coaches that know when to be hard and when to release the valve. I mean, they're always consistently successful. And it would have been disappointing when he did leave the Australian program and you see the success he had with other countries and other teams, but at the same time, you're not surprised.
No, not surprised at all. And for Heiko, it didn't matter which tracksuit he had on, whether it was an East German one, an Aussie one, a British one, Russian, Swiss, Danish, didn't matter. And he could, the guy could train juniors how they needed to be trained. He could train professional road riders how they need to be trained, teams time trial, teams pursuit, someone riding an Omnium. It didn't matter. He had the principles of coaching, and then was able just to adjust to suit all the individuals. I think that's something special about Heiko too. You couldn't pigeonhole him as a specialist coach in, one or two disciplines. He could do the lot, and he had just a wealth of knowledge, but the way to bring that across to the athlete in question, and get them to invest in what he was getting them to do. And, it's way more than just writing a program and saying go.
Yeah,
good stuff,
that's fantastic, mate. And the sad thing was he didn't want to. He loved Australia. He would have stayed here, and the team had really got professional. It was at the stage of it was sitting professional, when Jerry was involved. And I remember talking with Jerry not that long ago about it actually, and he said, "Why did that stop?" And he said, Heiko wanted to take it to the next level, even more professional. And Jerry was going to back him with that. But Australian cycling, because it was all part of the Australian Cycling Federation at the time, for some reason, they weren't backing it like they should have. And that's why Jerry pulled out. He was really disappointed.
Yeah, that's why we have a thing here called tall poppy syndrome, I think. I think it was a case of that ruffled a few feathers of those who thought they were high and mighty, and thought, well, this guy's going a bit too good and making us look not as good, even though results were coming. That's what they should have been, frothing at, that they were getting the results. But, I think that he got too good for his own good within the Australian system, which is a real shame.
Yep, some great words there from Robbie, a fantastic tribute and some great insights, because I didn't have anything to do with Heiko, but geez, the outpouring of stories and just the impact that this guy's had. We're joined by the voice of cycling, Phil Liggett, who's in a shadow. Looks like a 60 Rose.
That's better. Hi, Trish.
Chris has been listening to Robbie because, of course, we are both. He's probably the only national coach that we would think of more as a friend than as a world coach, not a national coach. Heiko was very special to us. And when John Savora wrote and said what sad news it was about Heiko, I had no idea, John, what you were talking about. News hadn't reached me. And I couldn't believe it was the same guy. Incredibly sad and devastated is a better word. But I remember when Paul and I were working together at the World Championships and the likes, Heiko and Olympic Games as well. Heiko was available to us as a friend. We never betrayed his confidences, but he would tell us what he was going to get out of the riders. I mean, he put Denmark on the map with the Olympic medals, and he worked with Michael Moorcock, etc. He was very special. And the first time Trish and I met him was in Sydney, 1990. And Heiko, his English was not very good then. And Trish could speak a bit of German. But, of course, he became a total Anglophile, if you like. I just can't believe it. I'm still getting emails this morning. People around the world are just discovering the fact he's gone. The British cyclists have been very, very generous in their praise, particularly Audley Wiggins and Owen Doole, and they got it right. I remember Dave Brailsford. It's probably the last time I ever spoke to Dave Brailsford. He wrote to me and said, "What did I think of Heiko Salzwedel?" And I told him more or less what I'm saying to you now. And then the next mail was, "You might like to know we've employed your friend in British cycling." My friend in British cycling. I don't know. You know Dave Brailsford as well as I do. It was an interesting mail for me. And then they sacked him, of course, and then they re-employed him, then they sacked him, and they re-employed him. All the time. But that was Heiko. And Heiko, when you speak to this guy, he's so quiet. He got his direction. He knew what he wanted from these guys, and he knew their ability, worked it all out. And he would tell you if you didn't have it to make the top, he'd just tell you. But if he saw something, he would persevere. And he would tell us things quietly. Paul and I would have a normal conversation with a guy standing in the velodrome, as we did in London at the Olympic Games, and just talk to us as a friend, and then get on with the job. Trish worked with him, don't forget. Trish worked with him on his teams and traveled well with him. And she's got one story she wants to tell you about what happened when he sort of shouted at the Australian national team. Trish.
Yeah, actually, I worked with Heiko for over 5 years, actually, with the national team. It was a brilliant thing to do. He was a marvellous man. Loved him to pieces, really sad this. And we were in South Africa, and I worked for a month with the guys there, with Henk Vogels, Daniel McDonald, etc. And they were doing very well in the Rapport Tour. It was a hard race. It rained nearly every day. It was February. That's what it was like in South Africa in February. A very hilly event, very tough event. And the guys were doing really, really well. They were 3rd and 5th overall or something along those lines. And Daniel McDonald crashed. And he crashed to the point where he smashed his helmet to pieces. He's lucky to have survived that one, actually. And then at the end of the day, all the guys dropped back for him to try and bring him back because he was 3rd overall. And Heiko, when the race was over that day, sat on the paving stones. They all sat on the curb stones and just were head in hands, absolutely distraught because they'd lost everything. They were now last in the team, last overall, or something along those lines. And Heiko was brutal, is no word. And Robbie's words came out very, very well. He was incredibly tough with them and sort of really complained about the fact that they'd left everybody, they dropped right back and lost everything. And then sitting in the car, I was silent, thinking, oh my God, this is terrible what he said. It's really been hard and the guys can't survive from this. And he said to me quietly in the car, he said, was that a bit harsh? And I just thought, I idolized him even then. And I said, well, actually, yeah, I think you were a bit hard. Anyway, at dinner table, exactly like Robbie said, we were a ball. He just calmed everything down, said all the right things. The guys went away happy. And by the end of 2 weeks on that event, they were now back in places again, really high spots. But the whole thing was done as a training event for the World Championships in Norway later on. But nevertheless, that was Heiko. I actually adored Heiko. Really did.
Yeah. I tell you, there's a wonderful story on SBS's Cycling Central written by Phil Bates. And of course, when you were talking about when you met Heiko, originally he was working on the Commonwealth Bank Classic, which was Phil Bates' wonderful bike race. But his story, I'll send you the link. I'll send it to you at the end of the show. And anyone who's listening, jump on Cycling Central SBS and see that story from Phil Bates. It is absolutely beautiful. Robbie McEwen also wrote a beautiful piece on Facebook too, and that's all coming out. I mean, we've all got wonderful stories about Heiko because he was such a sensational bloke.
There's another comment from Scott McGrory, who's obviously had a lot to do with Heiko as well. He says even the riders that have commented since Heiko's passing that they at times had disagreements, yet that they had respect for him. And they acknowledged that Heiko had the rider's best interest at heart. He would have been a perfect for the new now vacant high performance director role for Australian cycling. I think it's also giving people a lot of perspective and reflection as to how good he was and how much his skill set is needed, particularly in Australian cycling at the moment.
Absolutely. But he revolutionised Australian cycling, didn't he? He made it a force in the world. And he created the Australian Institute of Sport, which has become world famous for producing top bike riders now. So but it's not just when he went to Britain, he created, didn't create them, but he brought Bradley Wiggins to the boil and a lot of bike riders in Britain. Then he went and brought the Danish to the top. They never won medals on the track, and now they're winning medals under Heiko, particularly in the team pursuit. And then he went to the Russian Federation and worked with them, got developments from them. He was an East German, of course, so he started with the East Germans. And then, of course, the other country was Switzerland, which I don't think he had the real success in Switzerland, but that's a different setup there.
You know, we've had a lot of great coaches. Australia has had some really special coaches. I can unreservedly say that Heiko was the best coach we've had. But I believe, and yet, like we say lots of things when people suddenly pass away, and it's tragic, but I believe that Heiko is the best coach that I've ever seen, the best cycling coach that I've ever seen anywhere in the world.
I agree with that. I worked with a lot of coaches over the years, and Heiko stood out for me hugely. He was always the one I mentioned. We kept in touch as well. We were often chatting to each other over the years after that. Yeah. Great times, actually, with Heiko. Learned a lot. Brilliant guy. Yeah, I agree, John.
The thing that's standing out, Phil, is you can have all the data and analysis and understand the ins and outs from the mechanical side of the sport, but it's the fact that he had that balance, it sounds like, between the mechanical side and the human side. You know, if you can get that as a whole, people will show their best potential.
Yeah, you'd see him in action. He'd be walking around with his stopwatch. He'd be checking all the times. He would know all the numbers they were producing. But he wouldn't bore you to death by telling someone like me all this information. We just talked about general things, and he would talk ever so quietly, just say, Phil, just watch this kid. I'll tell you, in a few weeks' time, he'll be doing something special. And he'd excite me by just talking ever so calmly, and then he would produce the results. No, and if Paul Sherman was here now, Paul would be totally devastated because they just got on so well. They just chatted as friends. And then Heiko would just say, I've got to go. He'd go back into the track. He'd be back in with the huddle with the bike riders in the track centre. And he'd be telling them how he wanted to see him ride the team pursuit today. He forewarned of the success that Denmark would have. And he was part and parcel of producing that success. As we know now, the Danes, there's not many of them, but boy, they're beginning to rule the world right now.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And as we said, it was a fantastic tribute from Robbie. He spoke really well, man. Definitely.
I only caught half of it, but what Robbie said was absolutely right. Yeah. And I know there was a problem when he left the Aussies. It was kind of put out his misuse of money, was what I heard. Heiko just stepped aside from it. No reaction from him, passive, moved on. And that's the way he moved on from all his jobs. He never discussed them. I mean, he was, as one of the riders commenting on Heiko recently said just this week about his passing, was that Heiko is probably the most hired and fired man in British cycling. which is absolutely true. But why did they bring him back then? Because they threw him out, then they brought him back because they couldn't find a replacement for him. He got the results they wanted and knew how to do it. And he wasn't a dishonest man, despite what others might have thought. He was not a dishonest man.
No, not at all. No way.
Yeah.
Have a look at this photo, Phil. Now that was when Jerry joined the squad, and if you have a look, that's Heiko in the middle, and that's a very young Jerry Ryan, just to his left. Yeah, I think I was talking to Jerry about it before. I think Jerry was 42 or something like that at that time. Yeah.
Good heavens! I had to struggle to pick him out. I knew he wasn't one in the racing jersey. So I limited it down to 3 or 4 people. That's a terrific team. Those are the bike riders of that era. They were fantastic bike riders.
Yeah, it's a great photo, eh?
Yeah, that's thanks to Rob Arnold from Ride Media. I pinched that off his
Trish looked
Facebook.
after most of those guys on the team with Heiko.
We went to the world with him and all sorts. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, fantastic tribute.
Not the way I thought this week would end. I'm totally devastated. When I was
and for those who are listening in and just hearing this, who wouldn't know much about Heiko, and they wouldn't realise the tragedy of this, he had a brain embolism 4 weeks ago and has been in a coma for 4 weeks and passed away just two days ago. So just absolutely tragic with a young family, 2 young children.
And he was very much in love. He finally had found happiness because of his lifestyle. Of course, life is difficult as a married person, for sure. He does have a son by his previous marriage, Roman, and I don't know how Roman is taking this either. But I know his wife is Chinese, and he's got 2 beautiful kids. And at Christmas, he sends us the picture, of the happy family around the fire, and it's all gone. And it's gone too young, 64 years of age. He wouldn't have been 65 for the next April. It's crazy these things happen. But devastated, absolutely devastated.
Yep.
Now, Phil, I know that you're going to be calling the Paris-Roubaix over the weekend. We've just done just done a little preview of the women's race. We had Donna Rae-Szalinski on, and Kate Bates couldn't make it because she got stuck in the storm and lost all her internet. But so it looks like it's going to be wet. It's going to be quite horrendous tomorrow. But just wanted to get your thoughts on the first ever women's Paris-Roubaix.
Well, I'm actually not commentating on the women, which I find very sad indeed, because I'd love to have called this race. The women are going to go out petrified tomorrow. Let's be absolutely honest. They've never ridden these cobbles like they're being presented on Paris-Roubaix. They've had cobble sections on the other spring classics, as we call them, getting where they're going to sort of Flanders, etc. But there's nothing like Paris-Roubaix. They've got 17 sectors of cobbles. They start with a few laps around Donna, and then they pop onto the same course as the men, and they do the running over the last 17 sectors. So they've got some really vicious cobbles, particularly Canfin-en-Pavel is a real bad one, and so too is the Carrefour de l'Arbre. They come near the end, a 5-star sector. Well, the L'Arbre's 4, and the other one is, I'm looking sideways here, is one and a half. So that's also a tough one. So I reckon that it's going to be a terrific race. There's only one way to ride this one, because it's not a very long distance, and that is at the front. Once you get out of the Danan, you're pretty much onto the cobbles, whereas the men have got the best part of 100 kilometres before they see a cobblestone. The women are on pretty much straight away. And if you can't hold your front position and recover quickly from any incident, you'll lose Paris-Roubaix. Now, the weather has been bad. I'm actually only 250 kilometres from the race here in the UK. But the weather does change between the 2 countries. We saw the beautiful worlds, and it was raining here. But we've had rain now. It's just the sun's literally come out while we've been talking. But we've had rain here for 20 hours straight. Just steady, real wetting rain. And it will turn those cobblestones into a skating pan. So a lot of skill required. But what we are assured of, and that is going to be an absolutely cracking first Paris-Roubaix for the women. And the woman who wins it is going to be the star of the year. I really believe that. Because I know we saw the great world.
It'll be amazing.
It will be absolutely amazing. I can't wait. Unfortunately, American TV are taking it, but they're taking the international commentary direct. It's probably a money situation. I will call the men's race live from London, via France into the United States. That will also be great. I mean, that will also be a real battle. But I think, it's 20 years, 2 decades since we had rain on Paris-Roubaix of any note. And it's most of these bike riders have never ridden in the wet in Paris-Roubaix.
No.
I'm talking about now.
Not most of them, not one of them. There is not one starter, not one starter. 2002 was the 2002 was the last wet one, and not one rider on the start line has ridden a wet race. So
some people say, but I think you'll find it's 2001.
But there's never been an edition, Phil, where they've had a race the day before in the wet to chop it up even further. So
that's a very good point.
That's going to be
They
nuts.
used to have the randonnée used to go the day before and chew everything up, but we've never had the situation of it raining the day before for 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
and the race cars and all of that, but look, it's going to be fantastic. And the first set of first cobbles they hit after 31 kilometres is rated four star and nearly 4 kilometres long. It will never come back. It won't come back together. The race will split apart there, and it'll be up, and then it'll be on the whole way. Yeah. It's going to be just amazing.
For me, I've always likened the Paris-Roubaix to the Grand National, the great horse race over the Styx in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that's over 3 miles, which is a long way for a horse race.
Not a good comparison, Phil. I think a horse dies every year.
The way they ride the Grand National is at the front, and if you don't fall, then you're probably going to win the race. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, okay.
These guys hold position at the front. They might fall or they might not.
What about the Bradbury effect?
They're gone.
Tommy Maloney, good friend of yours, Phil, Tommy Maloney. That's a very good one, Tommy. What about the Bradbury effect in the women's race? Hang back and ride past all the fallen riders. The trouble is if you hang back, you'll fall over them. That's the problem.
Well, I think, I commentated on that. It was quite... he deserved to win. Don't get at him. He's made his fortune at that.
He has. 12 years he was a competitive
No, good for him. That's what happens. If you don't stay up, you don't win.
That's right.
And Steve Bradley, But Trish is a speed skater, so she's taken an interest.
Michael Roberts says SBS should reach out to Phil to commentate the first sector of cobbles for the women's race.
Well, I wish SBS would reach out to me, but there we are. I'm not. That's no criticism. I always say it against the present commentators.
Well, if the Terminator's watching this, give Phil a call.
Okay. Kate Bates, it might be stuck with the storm and no internet. You might have to jump in and replace her.
I'll have a job to replace Kate Bates. So I'll go out there.
All right, fellas. Well, it's been a massive edition of the Detour. We're super excited for this weekend. We're going to be doing a show, Iffy, live on Sunday night at 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Yes,
we're going to be chatting to Stewie O'Grady. We're going to be trying to get a pre-interview with, obviously, Matt Heyman, the 2 Aussie winners of the race, and your man, Magnus Backstead.
I think Maggie was going to. I don't think he's
going
to
come on tonight.
At GCN, he was coming tonight, but he's been stuck in the tunnel. But I just thought we'd just give a little plug to Phil's African Safari rides coming up, because the next one's not that far away. What day?
The promo video. My kids love that video.
Next one's 17th of October.
All right. Let's quickly play the promo video, because, as I said,
great idea.
Kids love the animals, and it's very interactive.
Hi everyone, it's Phil Liggett here, and it's time to get my African safari on the road again. We're heading back to the Kareka Game Reserve in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, where animals including the rhino roam freely. We did 4 great rides in June, and now, with 2 new ones, we're set to go again. There will be eminent guests to answer your questions on the wildlife and also offer an opportunity to win amazing trips to Kareka. We'll chat to one another, and you don't even have to ride, thanks to Full Gas, who will set you up to watch on Zoom when you enroll and make a donation. We have 4 rides, 1 per month, starting on September 19. They last an hour, and if you have a smart trainer, you can pedal your way through the reserve, or you can just sit back with a cup of tea. In either case, knowing that your participation is helping keep the animals safe and free to roam. Come and join me, and all the information you need to have is at careca.co.za/peloton, and let's go.
Good stuff. Scooter's comment. Scott McGrory's left another comment. He says, "I'll commentate it with Phil." Might have to get a live stream going, fellas.
Sounds good to me.
No worries. Great stuff. Thanks.
Well, by
Thanks,
the way,
Phil.
It's the 17th of October, but the timing is less favourable on the second one for the Aussies, because the first one was for the Aussies. But you're very welcome to come on, of course. It is a bit late into the night. But after that, we have the November one, which is back in Aussie favour.
Get on the website and get behind it.
Sounds
thanks,
great.
Phil. Thanks, Tippy. Thanks, Donna Rae. Thanks to Jess Allen. And thanks to Robbie McEwen. It's a fantastic show. And we'll see you again on Sunday at 6:30. Till then, good luck to all the women competing tomorrow. We will be watching with anticipation. See you then.
This is the winning